3 weeks later, Karen stood before a packed community center, wearing a borrowed cardigan. Her blazer was still being dry cleaned, and holding a speech she'd rewritten 14 times. The room buzzed with anticipation, some neighbors hoping for a public meltdown, others genuinely curious if Karen Pemberton was capable of genuine remorse. "I poisoned our pool," she began, her voice steady but small. Not with malice, but with stupidity and pride, mostly pride. Mrs. Patterson's poodle, Duchess, barked once from the front row, which Karen chose to interpret as encouragement. "For 7 years, I've been your HOA president. I measured your grass, monitored your mailboxes, and enforced every rule with the enthusiasm of someone who had confused authority with purpose." She paused, looking directly at Janet Morrison. "Janet, your mailbox was 2 inches too tall, and instead of just asking you to fix it, I made it into a federal case because I thought that's what leadership looked like." Janet nodded slowly, her expression softening from righteous anger to something approaching understanding. "The truth is, I've been scared," Karen continued, gripping the podium. "Scared that if I wasn't the person keeping everything perfect, everything would fall apart. But perfectionism isn't leadership. It's just fear wearing a blazer and carrying a clipboard." Derek sat in the third row, beaming with pride at his aunt's transformation. The pool renovation was nearly complete, funded by Karen's retirement savings and a payment plan that would keep her eating ramen for the next 5 years. "I'm withdrawing from the emergency election," Karen announced, causing surprised murmurs throughout the room. "Mrs. Chen has graciously agreed to serve as permanent board chair, and frankly, she's about 1,000 times more qualified than I ever was." "What will you do now?" called out Timmy Rodriguez, who'd become something of a neighborhood celebrity after his TikTok of the incident went viral. Karen smiled, a real smile, not the predatory grin her neighbors had learned to fear. "Derek and I are starting a pool cleaning business. Turns out, when you've spectacularly destroyed a pool, you learn a lot about how to properly maintain one." The crowd erupted in surprised laughter, and for the first time in years, Karen felt like she belonged in her own neighborhood rather than ruling over it. "Before I go," she added, pulling out a thick folder, "I'm donating my complete collection of HOA violation documentation to the Historical Society. Apparently, I've been keeping meticulous records of everyone's minor infractions for 7 years, and Dr. Patel thinks it might be valuable for future sociologists studying suburban power dynamics or something." Mrs. Chen stood up, slow clapping. "Karen, I think I speak for everyone when I say, we're proud of you. And also, please never buy industrial-grade anything ever again." "Deal." Karen laughed, feeling lighter than she had in years. As the meeting dispersed, neighbors approached Karen with surprising warmth. Some offered forgiveness, others shared their own stories of mistakes and redemption, and a few even asked about Derek's pool services. But as Karen walked home under the streetlights, she noticed something odd. Someone had left a package on her doorstep, a small bottle with a note attached. Her heart sank as she read, "For next time, a friend." Inside the bottle was glitter, lots and lots of glitter. Karen looked around the empty street, a slow smile spreading across her face. Somewhere in Willowbrook, someone was planning their own bit of harmless chaos, and for the first time in her life, Karen Pemberton was genuinely looking forward to seeing how it would unfold. She pocketed the glitter and headed inside, already wondering if her homeowner's insurance covered craft supply incidents. By noon, half of Willowbrook had gathered to witness what Channel 7 News would later call the Sutspocalypse. Karen, now wrapped in a borrowed beach towel and sporting a foam mohawk, paced frantically while delivering an increasingly unhinged press conference to anyone who would listen. "Obviously, this is domestic terrorism," she declared to Mrs. Patterson's miniature poodle, the only audience member still paying attention. "Someone, and I'm not naming names, Jane Net, has weaponized household cleaning products against our peaceful community." Derek emerged from behind the pool equipment, holding up the damning evidence with trembling hands. "Aunt Karen, I found this bottle of megafoam party bubbles, industrial strength, behind the filter housing." The color drained from Karen's face faster than the pool water they were now desperately trying to drain. That could belong to anyone. Pool maintenance uses all sorts of chemicals. It has your name written on it in permanent marker, Derek said quietly, his dreams of pool empire crumbling. And a shopping receipt from last night. Karen snatched the bottle with such force that Derek stumbled backward into the hedge. This is clearly planted evidence. Janet probably bought this bottle, wrote my name on it, and... She paused, realizing the absurdity of her own words. And what, Karen? Mrs. Chen stepped forward, her patience wearing thinner than Karen's hastily constructed alibis. You're suggesting Janet bought bubble bath, forged your handwriting, planted it behind the pool equipment, then somehow convinced you to wade into the bubbles to frame yourself? Stranger things have happened. Karen's voice pitched higher than a smoke detector. Remember the great sprinkler conspiracy of 2019? You mean when you reported your own sprinklers for watering violations because you forgot to adjust the timer? Mrs. Chen's eyebrow arched dangerously. The crowd began to murmur, and Karen felt the familiar sensation of being cornered, a feeling she usually enjoyed when it happened to others. She clutched the bubble bath bottle to her chest like a lifeline, her mind racing through increasingly desperate explanations. Fine, she exploded, causing several neighbors to take protective steps backward. Maybe I did buy this bottle, but only because I suspected someone was planning to sabotage our pool. I was conducting a sting operation. A sting operation, Mrs. Chen repeated slowly. That involved you stinging yourself. It's called deep cover. Karen's towel slipped, revealing her waterlogged HOA president badge still pinned to her soaked blazer. I had to think like a criminal to catch a criminal. Young Timmy Rodriguez, who'd been quietly filming everything on his phone, suddenly spoke up. My Ring doorbell caught you sneaking around the pool at 5:30 am, Mrs. Pemberton. You want me to post it on TikTok? Karen's face cycled through several shades of red before settling on a color that roughly matched a fire engine. The jig wasn't just up, it was doing cartwheels in front of the entire neighborhood while wearing a sequined costume. Now listen here, you little. Karen started toward Timmy, but her flip-flops, still slick with bubble residue, sent her sliding sideways into the pool's remaining foam with a splash that sent suds flying into Mrs. Patterson's horrified face. Emergency services arrived at 2 p.m. to find Karen barricaded in the pool house, shouting demands through the window while clutching a pool skimmer like a medieval sword. The bubbles had finally dissipated, leaving behind a crime scene that looked like a unicorn had exploded in a washing machine. I want immunity, Karen hollered as Fire Chief Martinez tried to negotiate her surrender. Full HOA immunity and a written apology from Janet Morrison. Ma'am, this isn't a hostage situation, Chief Martinez called back, struggling to maintain his professional composure. You're just wet and covered in soap. Please come out so we can discuss this reasonably. Through the window, the neighborhood could see Karen pacing frantically, her once pristine appearance now resembling a drowned rat who'd made poor life choices. Her presidential blazer hung like a soddy cape, and her badge had somehow migrated to hang upside down from her left ear. This is what happens when you mess with the HOA, she shrieked, waving the pool skimmer menacingly. I maintain order in this community. I prevent chaos. I am the thin BG line between civilization and anarchy. Mrs. Chen approached the window with a clipboard and the grim expression of someone about to deliver very bad news. Karen, as interim HOA board chair, I need to inform you that we're calling an emergency vote of no confidence. The pool skimmer clattered to the floor. You can't. I'm the most qualified person in this neighborhood. I've read the HOA bylaws 17 times. I have them memorized. Section 4.23 clearly states. Section 4.23 addresses fence height violations. Derek called out helpfully. I think you mean 7.14, which covers recreational facility damage. Karen's eye twitched. Even her own nephew was turning against her. Traitor. The pool cleaning is going to cost $14,000. Mrs. Chen continued relentlessly. The deck refinishing, another $8,000. And the landscaping they'll need to replace. She consulted her clipboard with the efficiency of a funeral director. We're looking at about 30,000 total. 30,000? Karen's voice cracked like a 13-year-old boy. That's impossible. It was just a little bubble bath. Industrial-grade foam agent, Chief Martinez corrected. The kind they use for airport emergency training. Where did you even buy this stuff? Karen slumped against the window, her fight finally leaving her. Amazon Prime. 2-day shipping. She paused, then added miserably, I had a coupon. The absurdity of the situation finally broke through her denial like a dam bursting. She destroyed the community pool, humiliated herself in front of the entire neighborhood, lost her position as HOA president, and potentially faced bankruptcy, all to frame an innocent woman for a crime that never existed. I just wanted Derek to have a job, she whispered, barely audible through the glass. He's a good kid. He deserves a chance. The crowd fell silent. For the first time in her reign of suburban terror, Karen Pemberton looked genuinely human, vulnerable, defeated, and completely ridiculous, but human nonetheless. Aunt Karen, Derek said softly, approaching the window. I appreciate it, but maybe next time just ask if I want help with job applications. Karen Pemberton stood waist-deep in a mountain of soap bubbles, her perfectly coiffed hair now resembling a bird's nest, while she pointed an accusatory finger at her bewildered neighbor through the foam. The Willowbrook HOA community pool looked like a washing machine had exploded. Iridescent bubbles cascaded over the deck, into the landscaping, and onto the horrified faces of the Henderson twins, who'd come for their morning swim. This is your fault, Janet. Karen shrieked, her voice reaching frequencies that made nearby dogs howl. A particularly large bubble popped directly on her nose, making her sputter indignantly. Your industrial-strength laundry detergent clearly contaminated the pool filtration system. Janet Morrison, clutching her coffee mug like a shield, stared in disbelief. Karen, I live 3 streets over. How could my laundry detergent possibly? Conspiracy. Karen waded through the bubbles with the determination of a woman possessed, leaving a trail of suds in her wake. You've been plotting against me ever since I reported your mailbox for being 2 inches too tall. The truth was far more embarrassing than Karen would ever admit. At 5:30 am, she'd snuck to the pool with industrial-grade bubble bath, the kind used for foam parties, intending to create evidence that the pool's chemical balance was dangerously off. Her master plan: blame the pool maintenance company, get them fired, and install her nephew Derek, who just graduated from community college with a certificate in pool sciences, as the new contractor. But Karen had catastrophically miscalculated the bubble-to-water ratio. Mrs. Pemberton called Derek from the pool's edge, his community college diploma practically wilting in his hand. Maybe we should just drain. Absolutely not, Karen commanded, pointing dramatically despite being covered in bubbles from head to toe. This pool is a serene. Nobody touches anything until we get to the bottom of this sabotage. Mrs. Chen, from the HOA board arrived, took one look at the Sutsi disaster, and slowly removed her glasses to clean them. Karen, please tell me you didn't. Of course I didn't. I'm the VCT island here. Karen's voice cracked slightly as she realized the sheer magnitude of her bubble miscalculation. The foam was now 3 feet deep and showed no signs of dissipating. If anything, the morning breeze was spreading it toward the tennis courts. As Karen tried to wade toward the shallow end with dignity, she slipped on the slick pool bottom and disappeared entirely beneath the bubbles, emerging seconds later looking like a deranged snowman made of soap suds. This is definitely going in the incident report, Mrs. Chen muttered, pulling out her phone to start documenting what would become known as the Great Bubble Incident of Willowbrook. Karen's eyes darted frantically between the growing crowd of neighbors and the incriminating bottle of bubble bath she'd hastily shoved behind the pool equipment. Her plan was unraveling faster than her wet perm, and she could practically hear her reputation as the neighborhood's most vigilant HOA enforcer dissolving like the very bubbles surrounding her.